Hey, friends. If you are building a movement and not just a moment, you need a strategy that matches your ambition. That's why I am very excited to invite you to GiveCon. It's May 17th through the 20th in St. Louis. It's Bloomerang's annual conference designed just for nonprofits, packed with sessions on some of my favorite things: donor retention, AI, automation, major gifts, recurring revenue, of course, and community-driven campaigns that move people and inspire them to give. So you will leave this event with very practical tools, smarter strategies, and the momentum and people to push your mission further. So if you're ready to turn some insights into impact, you can go over and register now at givecon.com. That's givecon.com. Today's episode is a replay from the Monthly Giving Summit back in February, but I had to share it with you. Dawson is the CEO and chief dreamer at Dion's Chicago Dream. And man, did he light a fire under everyone. The chat was just blowing up during his session. His session was titled From Voice to Velocity: Visibility Through Thought Leadership. And man, he showed up clarity with conviction and how he has transformed and how you can transform visibility into real world impact. I just can't say enough about it. You will fully understand why the chat was on fire and dropping like mic drop after mic drop moments. So without further ado, check out this amazing session from Dawson from the Monthly Giving Summit.
Thought leadership is not about being famous. It's about being familiar and trusted at scale. Monthly giving isn't a transaction model. It's a relationship model on subscription speed. And relationships don't grow. They do not grow from campaigns alone. They grow from consistency, clarity, and courage in how you show up. If every day you say, campaign more than clarity, then stop. Take a break for a minute, okay? Because for a long time, we were doing good work quietly. We were focused on operations, on delivery, on impact, on surviving the next week, and that work mattered.
This is about using your voice strategically without overwhelm and to really build belief at scale. So please give a warm welcome to Dawson. Welcome to the stage, my friend.
What is going on, people? What's up? Dana, what's going on? Congrats. Really, really excited to be here. Happy afternoon. I've been in and out, heard there's been a lot of fun, a lot of lessons learned, a lot of admitting of failures, because I know anybody on here who's been trying to figure out how to kind of pivot and re-strategize on the go as much as we do these days. I know, it feels like a marathon at times, but let's get grounded really quick. I'm Dawson. I'm the founder of Dion's Chicago Dream. And over the last 5 years, our work has helped generate and move more than $17.8 million in the impact, feeding families, building systems, creating jobs, and proving that dignity can actually coexist. But I want to be honest with you about something. I didn't get here because I cracked some universal code. I didn't get here because I found the one right way. And I definitely didn't get here from being perfect. And I want to, really acknowledge that. That's important. I got here because I stayed on a journey figuring out what works, for me, for my team, for our community. But I found what works for us and for the season that we're in. And I think that's really, really important. I want to make sure that we frame it around the seasonality of this, okay? And that's the part that we don't talk about enough. We act like growth is supposed to look the same for everyone. We act like leadership comes with a template. And that's just not true. We act like if something worked for them, then it should work for me. It should work for us, right? And that's just not how it always ends up happening. But the truth is, we're all experimenting in public. We're all building while learning. We're all, flying the plane as we build it. And we're all trying to turn, ultimately, belief into something sustainable. Think about that. We're all trying to turn belief into something sustainable. And that is something that is not only applaudable, but sometimes that could be heavy. So today isn't about me handing you answers. It's really about offering you a lens that helped us turn belief into momentum. And that lens is most organizations, most teams don't have a revenue problem. They have a voice problem. Now, here's what I mean by that. We spend a lot of time talking about funnels and retention, LTV, acquisition costs, and don't get into the wrong. You know what I mean? Like, we don't get into the other things, the things that matter. Because I want you to understand that before any of that works, people have to believe you. They have to recognize you. They have to trust you, okay? They have to understand what you stand for without needing 12 slides, okay? They have to, okay, hear me. They have to understand what you stand for without needing 12 slides. So when I say from voice to velocity, I'm really talking about a simple chain reaction. Your voice creates clarity. Clarity builds trust. Trust creates momentum. And momentum is what turns one-time supporters into monthly believers, okay? Thought leadership isn't about being famous. It's about being familiar, okay? Thought leadership is not about being famous. It's about being familiar and trusted at scale, okay? Monthly giving isn't a transaction model. It's a relationship model on subscription speed. Okay. Monthly giving isn't a transaction model. It's a relationship model on subscription speed. And relationships don't grow. They do not grow from campaigns alone. They grow from consistency, clarity, and courage in how you show up. If every day you say, campaign more than clarity, then stop for a moment. Okay. Stop, take a break for a minute, okay? Because for a long time, we were doing good work quietly. We were focused on operations, on delivery, on impact, on surviving the next week. And that work mattered. It still does. But here's what I learned the hard way, because everybody on this call has had a hard lesson, okay? If you ever had a hard lesson, it's going to happen and it's okay. I don't wish them on anybody. If you could get it the easy way, I would encourage it. But, a lot of us have had hard lessons. If you don't tell the story, the work will not travel. Okay? If you don't tell the story, the work doesn't travel. Just remember that. Okay? Now, the important thing is even outside of that, there came moments of visibility, like the Ellen show. Like the big spike that came with it and the big attention and the big surge of interest. And here's the trap. We think that moment is the moment of growth, right? It's not. The moment is just a spark. The growth comes from the system behind the moment. Social content wasn't about going viral. It was about showing up when nothing special was happening. Leadership voice wasn't about branding. It was about earning trust over time. Okay? One big moment can introduce you, sure. Only consistent voice can build believers and builders, though. And that's when things started to compound, not because we were louder, but because we were clearer. Okay? Not because we were louder, but because we were clearer. We understood who we were. We understood what we needed to say. We understood what we shouldn't say and what did not fit us. So let me give you something that you can actually use. Here are 3 questions I think every organization should be able to answer. One is clarity. Can a stranger understand what you stand for after 30 seconds of encountering you? When I think about Dion Chicago Dream, it is not the big moments that I remember. It was the moment I understood who we were. I understood our differentiators. I understood that anybody else and any other entity can do their thing their way, but we do things this way, and this is why. That intentionality is something that is necessary, and clarity will get you there. Not your mission statement, not your grant language, your signal. The second one, consistency. Do you show up even when you're not launching, fundraising, or in crises? That's important. That's what I realized. If you're only showing up when you have a big announcement, if you're only showing up when you're asking for money, if you're only showing up when you're in crises, then come on now. Exactly. We're imperfect. So again, do you show up even when you're not launching, fundraising, or in crises? Okay. That's important. Or do you disappear until you need something? That's a big question. Because if you disappear until you need something, that's not sustainable. The last one is continuity. Are you inviting people into an ongoing story or just a series of one-off asks? That's important. Do you treat what you're doing as an ongoing story? Because if you're starting over every time you have a new campaign, and I'm sorry to tell you, this era that we're in, people are more media literate when it comes to comms. Not all communications, but especially fundraising communications. They can sniff them out. I'm telling you. Okay? But here's the shit. Monthly donors don't come from great campaigns. They come from continuity of belief. People don't subscribe to nonprofits. They subscribe to meaning, identity, and trust. And let me say something a little uncomfortable with love. Thought leadership is not ego. It's just leadership in public. And I think we've really lost that. Thought leadership is not ego. Okay? You're not on one of your soapbox. It's not about being different. It's your leadership in public. And we have to remember that. If you don't shape your story, the algorithm will, the headlines will, or silence will. And silence is not neutral. Okay? Your organization doesn't need to be louder. It needs to be clearer and braver. Not perfect, not polished, just honest and present. Okay? Because the cost of being invisible is actually higher than the risk of being seen. Let me say that one more time. The cost of being invisible is higher than the risk of being seen. So I'll leave you with this. A voice creates trust. Trust creates momentum. And momentum creates sustainability. The real question isn't how do we grow monthly giving? The real question is, are we brave enough to show up consistently enough to deserve it? And now I'm excited to shift from, the ideas to the real life application as I move into this conversation with Dana. A lot of questions I hope we have. We'll be able to kind of talk about those moments, the platforms, the mistakes, the systems behind turning voice into
yes.
Let's go.
Dion, that was great. I know I agree with Josh. We need a snap emoji. Oh my gosh. I have so many questions I want to dive into. Okay. And I've added some based upon what you were talking about. And so many mic drop moments. Y'all, there's about to be social post on social post about just Dion mic drop moments coming out.
Listen. And drop those questions. We're going to get to them.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. Drop your questions too, because I'd love to know. I'll start with mine, but then chat. Yes. Please let us know what your questions are as well. So you started out talking about not because we were loud, we were clear.
Yes.
How does somebody know and distinguish and know if they're being clear?
Because here's the thing. I think that you want to have a values and a return-based assessment. And so it's not about what you feel you said. What did they walk away with? Mm-hmm. And sometimes when you're talking to people that you're comfortable with, asking them about what they heard, not about what you said.
Yeah.
Because what I realized is, for us, two of our biggest differentiators, they weren't clear in the beginning. So everybody thought we were a pantry. And I said, well, listen, our two core differentiators is number one, we don't have any volunteer labor. So 6 million pounds later, 56 employees later, more than almost $18 million later, we've never recorded a single volunteer hour. Wow. I had to be clear in that differentiator. And the second point is the opposite of that pantry model was we've never taken donated food. We've purchased, delivered every single piece of produce of that 6 million pounds. And so when we talk about clarity, it's not about using big words. And please, everybody, listen to me. I want you to understand this. Stop thinking that you have to sound like everybody else.
No, absolutely not.
You being an individual, you being yourself, you lifting up your lived experience, you using your lens and your framework will allow you to stand out to that subset of the community that deserves to hear your story and your voice in your campaign.
Totally.
And so when we talk about that, it's not only that clarity, but that unique clarity that could only come from a Black man who was in the military, born on Chicago's South Side, who's a husband and a father and can't even swim. That is why my journey is so unique. And so, no matter what, that clarity is something that I'll be able to stand on in any environment, not just when I want to launch a campaign.
So good. So good. I'm going to jump to Kelly's question in the chat.
Yeah.
What's the best way for a small team of 2 to create consistency? Like where and when should they speak to their story? Should we be on social? Should we be on email? Like where should they invest their time?
Ready, Kelly? You ready? First things first, stop calling yourself small, okay? That lets you know that your framing is already reactive and not proactive, okay? Right now, when we look at this, what we have to understand is everybody is under-resourced. The only difference is I never wake up and I never do inventory of what I cannot do. I never do inventory of what me or somebody else can't do. The bigger thing is understanding that all of us have the same amount of time to get to being experts, which is 5,000 hours. The only difference is that some people will do that in 2 years, some people will do it in 20. What I want to know, Kelly, is not where should you start. Kelly, you and that other person should be everywhere. Yeah. Because the funny thing that what I realized, Kelly, is that when it came to socials, the same people that were saying, oh, well, I hope we can do 1 post or 2 posts a week were updating their Instagram story 7 times a day. Mm. And so it's not really a question of where we should be. The question is doing an audit of where we are already. Yeah. Because the funny thing is that we naturally communicate where we think people will see our communications. So the question then does not become where should we be, but where are we already? Because it's funny, you're here today, Kelly, because you felt like this was the place to be.
That's
where
right.
Where are those other places? And so, the only thing I said was what I'm going to do is I'm going to start to hone in on understanding that I don't have to go by everybody else's rules. I post everything on every platform until proven otherwise. That's the thing. How do you stabilize you and that other team member, Kelly, and start trying to just learn who you are and where you are? So starting with a simple message. Let's just say, Kelly, what's the other team member's name? I want to make sure I honor their name. Drop it in the chat really quick, Kelly.
Let's see if she can drop it in the chat.
Yeah, let's see how fast. Bam! That's what I'm talking about. Is that Therese or Therese?
Oh, Therese? Oh, yeah, true.
Yeah. But either way,
phonetically.
Yeah. but it's okay, though. So you and your team member, the biggest thing is basically taking you all's activity and really going step by step into what we are doing, who we are, and how many people we want to know about it. Don't overcomplicate it. Yeah. Because what you want to do is build that consistency so that it matches up with your timeline for the campaign. So if you have a campaign launching in 2 months, what we're building right now is just that ease of just doing the same thing every day. Because if you are here today, then you have to be someone who loves monotony. Because we're not doing big changes every day. We're just really, really getting into it. So that's what I would say, Kelly.
Oh, so good. Okay, there's so many things. I love this, Dominique. Party of one here, but will no longer call myself small. Look, I can speak to this too. And I think, like, Dion, you get it as well. I'm a 1 full-time person. I have wonderful people helping with this. I have a very small team, small, quote unquote. However, we do a ton of things. And lots of people tell me, Dana, I see you everywhere.
Yes.
One, I did a LinkedIn post talking about the promotion of this event, and I'm always down to share behind the scenes. Yes. I have set up so many automations for direct mail pieces to go out, texts to go out, email workflows to go out. It looks like I probably have a whole crew.
Yes.
Not true. It's just smart. We are in a world hungry for change, and nonprofit impact matters more than ever. Yet every day, you're asked to do more with less time, fewer resources, and tools that weren't built for the way nonprofits actually work. But what could you do with more? That's the promise of Bloomerang. They are a trusted giving platform built for purpose. Bloomerang integrates fundraising, donor, and volunteer management into one really intuitive platform. It really connects your data to reveal real opportunities, showing you who's ready to give, when to reach out, and how to deepen every single relationship. So instead of juggling a bunch of systems, you're building momentum. And instead of guessing, you're truly guided by insights. And we're not settling for good enough anymore. We're raising more, retaining more, and inspiring more generosity year after year. When tools are built for a purpose, your mission truly goes further. More connections, more confidence, more impact. And that's how we like it. So you can learn more about how you can do more with more at bloomerang.com. That's BLOOMERANG.com. Tech. Okay,
Yes.
so a couple of questions have popped up around how do I get my leadership on board?
All right. Here's the thing. First and foremost, there's this balance, right? And what I try not to do is I try not to give so much blanket leadership advice. But what I will say is this: I love the word audit. Okay. We need to do an audit of how you view your leadership, their talents, and also their blind spots. Because I think what we don't do before we talk about getting the leadership on board is acknowledging how we make sure that we tailor the message so that the receiver can receive it in the best way possible. We do it a lot with children and we do it a lot with elders, but when it comes to grace in that middle zone, we don't give it. And so when you're talking about leadership, first and foremost, understanding that they're human. And so what they do and what they have, because they're in their position, and I hope that they're competent and I hope that they're amazing team members, and we're going to assume that they all are because we're not going to be negative because it's just too easy to be negative. What we're going to do is then kind of take a moment and say, okay, not as a group, but individually. Let's just say we have our, 3 leaders that need to be on board. Let's look at them individually and break down who they are. And then what are the dynamics and how do they operate? What are their workflows when they're together? Because a lot of time, what I would say, and everyone, a lot of people, they know this about group dynamics, there's always that one. There's that one that if you get that early adopter in any group, it would really help with being able to scale and spread whatever message you want to. And so what I would say is don't, we use the leadership plural. Let's kind of make it singular. It's okay, not how do we get leadership on board? I don't like big questions with a lot of ambiguity, but instead, who's the first leader I can talk to about?
Yeah, get that buy-in.
And what am I missing? Because the 2 questions I ask myself every day is to what end and what am I missing? Because I think what I hear in that question of how do I get leadership on board is how do I get them to do what I want them to do? There's no give there. And we know in any real relationship and any real sacrifice, we have to give something in order to get that adoption back. So what I would say is number 1, individualize the leadership and the chain of command, and then also making sure that you're willing to sacrifice something to move the change forward.
Love that. So good. Okay, I want to ask you a personal question because you do a lot of speaking and podcasts and like you had the national exposure. And let's say again, we're working with they're not small teams anymore. They're mighty and they're powerful teams.
Damn right.
Bandwidth wise, how do you determine where to spend your time, where to invest your time, how to go after some of these certain things and be like, yes, like this is a great opportunity for us. Or what we talked about today at the beginning was no, this is not. I need to say no to this to focus and open the door for something else.
Yes. I think what we start with is where's our ICP? Where's our, ideal customer profile? Where are they located? Is it in person? Is it virtual? And if it's virtual and online, where are they? The setting a lot of times dictate how the learning and adoption occurs. You know what I mean? Don't try to, splice it so much into certain social media platforms or different things like that. But just overall, who are you talking to? We're not talking about who you're representing or who you're helping. We're talking about who you're talking to. Who are you trying to get to do something, to learn something, to activate?
Right.
Because once you figure out where they are, that will start to hone in on where you should be. If I know that, my ICP, ideal customer profile is, and I say customer only because a lot of times we need to view them as a customer so that we can hold ourselves to hard returns.
We're in service.
I look at everybody that works, that behavioral change as customers. Where are they? Because chances are, if I know that they're chronically online, I have to make sure that I have a message and I have attention focused chronically online. You know what I mean? And so I don't want to give super duper broad strokes. I think what you should walk away from is way more questions that you have to ask yourself and your team.
Good.
Because what you want to do is be extremely informed on what we're great at, where we can be better, where we should be, and how we start to experiment. I want everyone in that chat to leave today experimenting. Okay? That's the thing. Because at the end of the day, figure out what works for you, your team, and who you're trying to change.
And a lot of times it could be a very niche publication you want to be in. I have a great person in my mini mastermind right now that is a female engineer, and they do a lot of work at the borders,
Yeah.
and their work is in engineering. And I was like, you need to go into all the engineering associations. There's a ton of events there. You're founded by 3 female engineers. You need to go speak there. You speak
Yes.
on like these podcasts. So I want to ask you like about your own ecosystem. So
Yes.
getting into the weeds about like in
Yes.
Dion's world,
Yes.
because we're all in it right now.
Yes, absolutely.
How do you do this for yourself? How do you go for speaking? How do you manage social, like all that stuff? Plus, you're a founder, and
all of the things. I think what you'll realize is that I treat everybody as if they're carrying the same weight as me. So I don't think that because I'm a founder or because I lead an organization with 55 employees that means my thing is heavier. It's actually not. So when I'm approaching this, the biggest thing for me is I treat my speaking engagements over the last few years, I treat it like this nice mosaic of I speak about and in places where I can stand behind what I'm saying. And I don't treat the Ellen show as more important than a local podcast. What you want to do is, if you're going to be an expert across 5,000 hours, you know what I mean? You're not going to spend 5,000 hours on Ellen. You're going to spend 4,500 hours, honing in on your messaging and being everywhere else. But I really value people. And it's something, if you've, connected with me, if you haven't connected with me on LinkedIn or anywhere else, please do. But what you'll see is I don't try to jump ahead of my journey. And when we're talking about, for me and when it comes to speaking and whether it's campaigns or comms or anything like that, you really want to respect the fact that every single butt in that seat is important.
Yeah.
And what the virtual world has kind of really desensitized us with is thinking that 30 likes is not a lot.
Yeah.
They've desensitized. And so for Dion, what Dion does is, number one, I make sure that there's a line that I don't cross. You know what I mean? And it's not, and let's be clear. I want you all to understand this. I'm not saying don't be political. I'm not saying don't, turn your eyes and ears off of everything that's happening. The only thing I want you to do is I want you to build the courage to always be able to communicate and stand behind what you put out. Mm-hmm. And that's what I focus on. I focus on making sure that I can build my courage every day, because we also have to acknowledge that, we are lucky to be driving communications. The world went toward our skill set. It went toward comms and toward media and toward fundraising. And so how do we make sure we're responsible with these gifts? And so day in and day out, number one, I wake up and I say, okay, cool. Instead of consuming, I put something out. You know what I mean? I always, want to put something out, but also where am I? Am I putting something out that's really about my personal journey? Am I putting something out that's about my professional journey? Am I putting something out that's reflective? Am I putting something out that's inquisitive? Am I putting something out that is me, stating something happened? Am I putting something out that speaks about something I am anticipating happening?
Yeah.
Am I manifesting something? And so, again, always asking these questions, because then you'll be able to share out and never being scared to just admit where I am. You know what I mean?
So good.
Yeah.
There's moments where you're just putting your reps in.
Yeah, that's it. And understanding that a lucky layup counts, okay? Yeah. A lucky layup counts. Everybody she's like, oh, because I wasn't confident about this, it may do. All of us on here have been surprised at the most carefree thing we've done or posted or a campaign and it took off like hotcakes. I just believe and I manifest that really anything is possible.
So true. I remember getting reps in. Anybody remember Charity How To? I used to do a ton of webinars on there. I was first starting out like back in 2020, I think, and probably 2 or 3 times a month. And that's how I was starting to build speaking, and did my first in-person, I think it was like 2019 or 2020 speaking engagement. And then it just like grew over time, but you had to be open to put yourself out there in that way. How have you found speaking, the thought leadership exposure, helping to, because something else you said earlier that was also so on point was like, it's not about ego.
Yes.
That the mission is so important. And I have always said the mission is too important to not share.
Absolutely. It's way too important. I mean, listen, let me explain. What I realized was that what are the things that you can say that no one
Mhm.
can? That's where the strength comes from. That's when it's not about ego. Ego is there to mask our fears.
Right.
Ego is there so that people don't see the real us. We want to protect how strong we may feel.
Yep.
But the more honest the message is, the less ego that's involved. And so, what I
Mhm.
would say is, I went on a journey of just asking myself, we were moving more produce when we got to the point where we were packaging and delivering more produce than a Walmart. I said, I can say that.
That's insane.
And that's the thing. And so you're talking to a guy whose, organization and company started from him borrowing $100 from his mom during an economic downturn and a pandemic where everyone said it was impossible.
Mhm.
The only thing I'm saying to you is, what can you say that no one else can say? Because then
Ooh,
you
drop
won't.
that in the chat. That's a good one.
What can you say?
What can
Because
you
that
say?
is undeniably you. And no one can take that from you. And then you'll be surprised at how much ego is absent.
Have you always, since you started the organization, were you always out in the forefront speaking, or did that build over time?
I think everybody
Because
here,
clearly you're very
right?
shy and like,
Everyone here knows I don't shut up. Okay, like let's just be honest, people. Okay, but what I will say is the acknowledgement and awareness of the weight of my words grew.
mm,
But I understood that no matter, even when I say that this is me and not my organization or our other company, I still have to understand and be responsible
yeah.
for who I am and how I show up and what I say. And so, the only thing I tell people is that if you really only spend time on what you care about, if you really only focus on the people who are for you and not focus on what's not for you, if you really only continue to get up and keep trying, then you'll look up and you'll have a life that you can't identify with because it's so well rounded and it's there to protect you.
Yeah. Oh, okay. I'm gonna wrap with I think two questions here. One, if everyone in this audience,
Yes.
talking to all 1,000 plus of you,
Yes.
committed to one action.
Yes.
I was gonna say this month, but that's real
Yes.
short. Got a couple days left. Let's go with
Yes.
March.
Yes.
In March, to grow their thought leadership,
Yes.
what should it be?
Okay. I would say that it would be a two-part process. First, what I would want you to do is to pick, the type of communication that you're most comfortable with. So, is it written or is it spoken? Right?
Mm,
First, let's decide. Am I a written speaker or am I a speaking speaker? Because that
okay.
matters, right? Now, over time, I want you to really work on
Explain like what do you mean by the difference of the two? Like
so,
what would
so, so here's the thing. We all know those leaders that, I mean, they can write a profound message. You can read it and it captures.
like an author maybe or
Right.
like
No, anybody. No.
okay.
Remember, as communicators, as humans, our talent leans either towards spoken or written. So what I'm asking is just look back over your life, your career, even the last few years of where have you been more successful? Has it been written
Mm,
communication or spoken communication? Once you decide that, then the only thing I want you to do is I don't want you to worry about, oh, you have to post this thing or send out an email blast. No,
yeah.
I want you to pick three people. That's it. That's all. Three people. And you are going to share that communication with them
Mm,
without context, without saying, I normally don't do this, but here this is. Not saying, like, well, I was tasked with this last month. No, you're going to share it. Because what I want you to do, what I want you
we
all to,
always give that weird caveat.
yeah, we give the caveat because we think that it will protect us, but it won't. Because what I want is you're going to see now. Some of you are superstars. You're going to get three people, right? But when I did this, one person responded. And they
Mm,
said, this is so insightful. I would have never thought you would have thought this. And that's what I want. I want you to
mm,
start having the ability to receive organic feedback. Because right now, it's not about framing. Right now, it's not about caveats. Right now, it's not about trying to protect ourselves. I need you to be the most unashamed you possible just for the next month. And
so
every
good.
time you do it, just share it out to three people. And you'll look up and 3 rounds later, you've started to build this new community of who and where you are. And nobody can make you go back but you.
That's right. I love that. Okay. Yes. Oh, first I feel validated. Yes, I am a written speaker. I love this. Okay. Last one, and we're going to do some manifesting here.
Yes.
Okay. What does velocity look like for you in your next season of work? And I'm saying this to you, Dion, but also I want to ask that just in general to everybody. What does velocity look like in the next season of your work?
So a lot of speakers and a lot of people you're going to listen to, and they're going to immediately associate velocity with growth. But I think honestly, right now, velocity is about sustaining. We have a lot of people who are being laid off. We have a lot of people in organizations and teams and companies who are closing their doors. And so velocity for me is being able to continue to do the work that I do.
So good.
Especially in a season like right now. And I would hope that you all are fair to yourself right now. That right now, you all have shown so much velocity just by even making it to today.
Dion, can we just give it up one more time? Like, chat, go wild. We're going to do some virtual applause, claps.
Thank you.
I mean, gosh, I'm truly from 2024, I think 2023 when we first met. It might have been 2023. It's been a long time to finally make this happen, and beyond thrilled for everything you're doing and that you spent time here with us today. Thank you so much.
Oh, no, listen, thank you. Literally one of the best webinar people in the game. First of all, I'm telling you.
Like, I'm giving some of its words.
Listen, okay? But no, listen, Dana, thank you so much. Thank you all. This is a testament to your hard work, the team's hard work. I will return as much as you will have me. I appreciate you, okay?
Thank you. Thank you, Dion. Thank you so much for tuning into today's episode of Missions to Movements. If you enjoyed our conversation and found it helpful, I would love for you to take a moment to leave a review wherever you're listening. Your feedback helps us reach more change makers like you and continue bringing impactful stories and strategies to the show. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button too, so you'll never miss an episode. And until next time, keep turning your mission into a movement.